Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Tyrone back with Tech Life. Great article here from Fierce Network. I'll leave a link to it in the description so you guys can check it out. So I wanted to talk about a few more things on T-Mobile's earnings today. I sat through the entire call this morning. I read a few more articles. I listened in on some of the interviews, and we got to point it out. We've said it before, but there's just no denying it anymore. T-Mobile's network is just much, much better today. That's a fact. Do they still have their flaws? Of course. No network is perfect. Even Verizon and AT&T don't have a perfect network. But T-Mobile's network is just much, much better today than ever before. I don't care how you slice it and dice it. I don't care how you twist it, flip it, spin it. They have a much significantly improved network, and it shows across the board. So I know a lot of people were asking about, man, can T-Mobile, how does T-Mobile continue its growth? How can they post such huge numbers? And you got to think about it, right? I don't think I've ever broke it down, but we got to talk about it. So 903,000 postpaid ads. And I've said this before during the Verizon videos. Verizon breaks down their numbers by business and consumer. T-Mobile does not do that. AT&T doesn't do it. So the 903,000 is everything. It's consumer, it's business, small business, big business, whatever account lines they got, that's included in that number. So we have to point that out. This 903,000, if you thought this was all consumer, right, you're sadly mistaken. This is not all consumer. This entails prepaid to postpaid migrations. This is business, which T-Mobile is underpenetrated in, and they're growing at a much higher clip than ever before. So it's going to reflect in the numbers. So T-Mobile still has runway for years to come, right? This year, T-Mobile signaled that this was their biggest growth year in the company's history. And what did they turn around and do? They raised guidance for 2025, and they have an even bigger year of growth planned. So this is everything. This is small market, rural areas. This is business, small, big, medium. This number that you see here is everything included. So it's impressive. So they're still able to grow consumer in the top 100 while they're also growing their business and everything else in the company. This includes 5G SA, T priority, the slicing, everything that they sell. This is what's included in that number that you see here, the 903,000, and then of course the 1.93 million net customer additions. That includes everything. And then you see here below, they guided 6 million in 2025. I mean, eventually at this pace, they're gonna catch Verizon over the next few years. They're just growing at an impressive pace, and there is no slowdown in sight whatsoever. And I know I said the churn is concerning, right? But when you're growing at such a high clip, the churn almost becomes irrelevant in that sense, right? The churn is much more meaningful when you can't grow and you're always taking losses. That means, as I've said before, your losses kind of wipe out your growth. It's almost like you didn't grow. You still added customers in that quarter if you post a net loss, but you just couldn't grow enough to offset the losses. If T-Mobile can grow almost 2 million customers a quarter total, and they're at a 0.908, I mean, who cares? That's what I've been told. I was talking with some of the top well-respected analysts, and when I said, what about the churn? They told me BAU, business as usual. Right? Churn is important, and you want to have the lowest churn because that's something you should strive for. You should strive to have a lower churn because if you have a high churn, that still means millions of customers are leaving you every year. Even though you're growing at the millions, by the millions, you're still losing a good amount of customers per year, right? It adds up. So you want to have a low churn, but if you can comfortably grow at the clip that they have been, right? And we got to talk about the free lines in this video too, right? This might end up being a longer video. In my view, I'm no rocket scientist or no mathematician, but I just don't see the free lines being free anymore. Yes, T-Mobile advertises it as a free line, the third line free, but you're charging $150 for 3 lines, right? That's $50 a line of ARPU. Maybe in the past, right, when T-Mobile was offering line 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 for free, then yeah, that's really like, that's excessive. You're really getting that for free, right? But $50 of ARPU, I think that's right in line with industry standards. I don't think that's too crazy. I don't recall Verizon's ARPU, and I haven't seen it posted, but I think their ARPU was at like 54 or 55 bucks. T-Mobile's was at like 47, 46. So they're not that far off. So I don't know if I can get on board anymore with the free lines, right? Like people saying there's like 200, 300,000 free lines just floating around every quarter. It might seem that way because T-Mobile advertises it like that and people feel like they're getting a deal, but they're still paying $50 per line, even if they're only paying for 2 lines. You're paying, if you don't add in the third line, right, and you just do the 2, you're doing like $75 of ARPU. So I don't want to call it trickery, but it's really not a free line. It's just really not. And then if you do, they discount it, right? I think if I remember on the 3 lines, it says actually 200, and then they discount it down to 150. I mean, if you do the math at 200, that's a $66 ARPU. Nobody's paying $66 ARPU on wireless unless you're on like a fiber or something like that, right? I think AT&T posted like a $71 ARPU on fiber. So that free line, in my opinion, right, this is just my view. You can view it differently. It's just not really a free line anymore. And I wanted to briefly address that in this video, which might make it a bit of a longer video. So one thing I do want to point out as well, tying back to the opening statement of T-Mobile just being a better network, I want to call this out because I think this is important, and this was talked about during Kali Field's question. She's the president of business. T-Mobile also won the single carrier contract with the city of New York. So I want to clarify that, right? The lines are not being split with another carrier. T-Mobile is the single carrier contract with the city of New York. So the city of New York is a T-Mobile business customer. Thanks to the power of our network, Field said. They take over 9 million 911 calls. They have 1 million buildings in the city, she added. They don't joke around when it comes to the safety the safety of their communities. So that is in the buildings and all that. That's in reference to indoor solutions. Now, I don't know if every single building has received the DAS system. I don't know how T-Mobile is particularly serving all those buildings. I don't know if some of them is with macro, some of them they had to put advanced network solutions, some of them they just had to put a DAS. Whatever that entails, I don't know, but they got the contract. So that's thousands more lines. And then they stated very clearly that if they can get the city of New York, they can take that business anywhere. And that's a fact. If you can take that large of a city, right, the largest city in the U.S. by population, and you can take that business, I mean, you can take this anywhere. So like I said, let me clarify again, T-Mobile still has its flaws. I have acknowledged that in several videos. In fact, I have said Verizon will end up with the best network, but T-Mobile is making strides. And the fact that they can still grow at the clip that they've been growing, and they still haven't even gotten to like a very, very high percentage of business share, small business share, or like even fair share, some might consider that scary. And in an industry where we really only have 3 mobile network operators today, and T-Mobile is about to close the deal on US Cellular, I mean, competition should be fierce. It might not lead to lower pricing, but it should lead to like better value, better deals, better phone deals. MLS was just included with T-Mobile's plans. So that's what it should lead to. Now, if it becomes stagnant and it just doesn't move the needle much anymore, then I would say a 4th carrier is needed. But until that happens, I mean, right, the consumer does have its limits. I will point that out as well. They can't just sit back and keep raising price. Eventually, the ceiling's going to break. And then the people will start just flooding and going to cable, MVNOs, prepaid, whatever's out there that's cheaper. But at the same time, as postpaid gets higher and higher and higher, so will prepaid and MVNOs will also adjust their pricing too. So we'll see what happens. We'll definitely, stay tuned and monitor this year and see what happens in the second quarter, third quarter of this year and see what other M&A deals get struck. But all an M&A deal does is add more, in most cases, significantly more debt onto the balance sheet of the carrier. Then the carrier has to turn around and sell the market on a return on investment plan, and then they got to raise price to say that they made more profits, right? That's usually how it goes. I'm oversimplifying, but that's usually how we end up with price increases. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe if you're new. Follow my social media outlets. This is Tyrone with Tech Life. See y'all in the next one. Peace.